Denny Abbott was born in Montgomery, Alabama in 1939, when it stood as one of the last great cities of the Old South. It was a city with a long, rich history and a lot to be proud of. It was the birthplace of writer Zelda Fitzgerald, and it was the city where a young country singer named Hank Williams got his start. But the most famous face of Montgomery was Jefferson Davis, President of the Confederate States of America. Nearly three-quarters of a century after the Confederacy vanished, there were reminders everywhere of the city's former glory as its first capital. And like every white boy for miles around, Denny was marched up the Capitol steps to stand on the spot where Davis took the oath of office. By the time Denny reached his teen years, however, the symbols of Montgomery were changing. The Cleveland Avenue bus became one of the most important. Like thousands of others, Denny rode it every day without ever really noticing the black people entering and exiting through the rear doors. Until the day Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to a white man. That simple act of defiance and courage touched off the Montgomery bus boycott, which introduced America to the new face of Montgomery, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It was in this time of turmoil and change that Denny set out to raise a family and begin his career as a youth probation officer. His office was on the third floor of the county courthouse, but he spent a good deal of his time on the dusty back roads, shuttling kids to detention facilities. The black children, girls as well as boys, were sent to a place called Mount Meigs, which had been founded years earlier as a vocational training school. Its most famous graduate was Satchel Paige, who entered as a troubled youth and emerged as one of the greatest pitchers in baseball history. But the Mount Meigs that Denny encountered wasn't a school at all. It was a slave camp where black children were forced into hard labor and beaten if they resisted. Many were sexually abused, and they all went to bed hungry. Denny reported all this to his superiors, and they all told him to mind his own business. But he decided these kids were his business, and he did something remarkable. Working with local attorney Ira Dement, they sued the state of Alabama in federal court. The most remarkable thing of all is that they won. Denny's own act of defiance and courage helped the kids of Mount Meigs. But when he filed a second suit on behalf of kids who'd been incarcerated simply because they had no home, Denny felt the full fury of the old racist South. He was fired. His family was threatened. He became a pariah in his hometown and throughout the state of his birth. But Denny ultimately achieved an even greater triumph. He found his true calling as an advocate for children everywhere. His good work was recognized at the highest levels, and he continues to speak out today. Now Denny has told his own story in a new book called They Had No Voice, My Fight for Alabama's Forgotten Children. Teamed with author and journalist Douglas Kalajian, Denny offers encouragement to anyone faced with difficult choices on behalf of those who can't speak for themselves. Denny's inspiring tale is already winning high praise. They Had No Voice is available online in print or as an ebook. Just ask for it at your local bookstore.